The call came after dark, a trembling voice on the other end. An old horse, she said, in a forgotten barn. But there was something else in there with him, something vicious. I drove out to a collapsing farm. The gate groaned open like a dying man's last breath. The silence was absolute, thick, heavy. The barn was a skeletal wreck of rotting wood under a sliver of moon. The beam of my flashlight cut a path through the darkness, painting a scene of decay. It caught something hanging crookedly on a nail. A calendar. Its pages were curled and yellowed. It was frozen in time, stuck on a month from 2 years ago. This wasn't just a forgotten place. This was a tomb where time itself had died. I took one step onto the dirt path, and the silence shattered. A sharp, furious snort cut through the night, from inside the darkness. It was followed by the sound of stamping hooves, too small for a horse, too fast. I raised my high-powered flashlight, its beam slicing straight into the gloom. The light caught 2 small burning embers low to the ground. Above them, a massive, unmoving shape. The horse. His head was bowed, a ghost in his own stall. Then, a low growl rumbled from those burning eyes. A watcher emerged from the shadows, not a coyote, not a wild dog. It was a goat. Small, scrawny, his coat matted with filth, but his eyes burned with a furious fire. He stamped his hoof, kicking up dirt, and lowered his head in a clear challenge. My light caught something around his neck, not just fur. Leather, cracked and stiff with age. A tiny, thumbnail-sized piece of metal dangled from it, tarnished black. Whatever name was once etched there had long been erased by time and neglect. Every time I shifted a single millimeter, he would circle the horse, a tiny but impenetrable satellite of defense. His aggression forced me to stop, to truly look. And that's when my heart broke. The horse wasn't just old. He was a skeleton draped in torn skin. Every rib stood out in sharp relief, like the bars of a cage he could never escape. His mane was a tangled mess of burrs and dirt. He stood there, trembling, a constant, unending shiver, though the night wasn't cold. But it was his eyes that undid me. They were 2 milky, vacant orbs. They looked right through me, through the rotting walls, into nothing. There was no recognition, no light. The horse was blind, completely lost in an endless, permanent night. Every small sound, the creak of a floorboard, the goat's hoarse bleat, sent a tremor through his entire body. He was living in a prison of sound and fear. I scanned the stall. It was a ruin of filth and mud. The water trough was bone dry, coated in a slimy green film. Jagged pieces of rusted metal jutted out from broken planks, deadly traps for a creature who couldn't see. And I understood. The goat wasn't vicious, he was desperate. His growls weren't threats, they were a plea, a silent scream into the dark for someone to help his only friend. In this hell, this small, furious animal wasn't the jailer. He was the guardian. He was all the horse had, the only hope in a world made of nothing but shadow. Plan A was to separate them. It was logical, but logic had no place in this hell. "If we can lure the goat out," Mark whispered, holding a bucket of oats. He approached slowly. The goat snorted, took a step back, pressing his body against the horse's leg. He glanced at the bucket, then looked Mark dead in the eye. A look of pure contempt. He would not be bribed. I tried another way, a soft lariat. The plan was to gently loop it over his neck, to lead him just a few feet away, just enough to get to the horse. I tossed the rope. It landed perfectly. A mistake. A terrible, terrible mistake. The moment the rope tightened, the horse exploded. He didn't whinny. He screamed. A sound torn from deep in his chest. A raw, guttural sound of pure agony. He threw himself backward, blindly, his white eyes wide with terror. His massive body slammed into the back wall. Rotting wood shattered. The crack was deafening. The whole barn shook. Panic. Absolute. "Get it off!" I yelled. Mark yanked the rope free. The goat, released, immediately scrambled back to his friend's side, nudging his leg, making small, soothing bleats. Separating them wasn't an option. It was a death sentence. We had failed. Sweat poured down my forehead, mixing with the grime. We were trapped. And then the storm hit. A hard wind whistled through the gaps in the barn, carrying the distant rumble of thunder. The first drop of rain hit the tin roof with a sharp metallic ping. The sound made the horse flinch. He scrambled backward again, panicked, but this time in a different direction, toward the darkest corner of the stall. "Stop him!" Mark yelled. But it was too late. I saw it. A black hole in the floorboards, where the wood had completely rotted away, revealing a deep, dark space beneath. The horse couldn't see it. He was walking straight into a deadly trap. Time stopped. The goat launched himself, not at us, not in aggression. He threw himself sideways, straight into the horse's flank, a charging cannonball of pure loyalty. The horse, knocked off balance, stumbled to the side, his front hoof landing inches from the edge of the hole. He stood there, trembling, not understanding why his companion had just attacked him, but he was safe. I collapsed onto a pile of moldy straw, my heart hammering against my ribs. I had been wrong. We had all been so wrong. I just sat there and watched, exhausted, defeated. The horse grew restless. He was thirsty. I could see him testing the air, trying to locate the water trough we'd managed to fill from a canteen. He took one step, then paused, his head swaying in blind confusion. He was scared. He was stuck. And then I saw it. The goat let out a soft bleat, a completely different sound. No anger, just direction. The horse's ears twitched. The goat walked to his side, nudging the horse's front left leg with his head. The horse took one step to the left. The goat bleated again, moving a little forward. The horse followed the sound. In their path was a rusted metal spike sticking out of the floor. The goat stopped, walked around it, and nudged the horse's front right leg. The horse shifted his path, missing the danger completely. A jolt went through me. He wasn't the problem. He was the solution. He wasn't the jailer. He was the guide. He was the horse's eyes. Everything changed. "Mark," I said, my voice hoarse. "Open the trailer. Lower the ramp." The rain was a torrent now, turning the ground to thick, slick mud. Thunder cracked overhead as a bolt of lightning split the sky, illuminating the barn's devastation for one brutal second. The trailer's metal ramp became a slippery slide, the rain hammering against it in a deafening roar. To a blind horse, it was a growling monster. The horse felt the change in the ground beneath his hooves. He balked at the entrance, refusing to move. His fear was a physical thing, a wall we couldn't break through. I didn't go to the horse. I went to the goat. I knelt in the mud, getting down on his level. I pulled an apple from my pocket. I held it out. The goat looked at me. His eyes, once burning with rage, were now filled with an intelligent assessment. He looked at the apple, then at me, then at his trembling friend. He took one step forward, and gently he took the apple from my hand. I didn't say a word, I just backed away. The goat finished the apple. He looked toward the safe darkness of the trailer. Then he looked back at the horse. He let out a soft, firm bleat, and he walked up the ramp. His hooves made sharp, clicking sounds on the wet metal. The horse heard it. He moaned, but he trusted that sound. He trusted his guide. He placed one hoof on the ramp. He trembled. The goat bleated again. The horse took another step. Slowly, painfully. A journey of absolute faith through the roaring rain and flashing lightning. They walked up the ramp together, the tiny creature guiding the blind giant. When they were safely inside, I slammed the heavy doors shut, sealing them off from the storm. I leaned against it, gasping for breath, rain and sweat pouring down my face. The rescue was over. The real battle had just begun. The journey back was a world away from the chaos. The storm had passed, leaving only the soft drumming of rain on the trailer roof. Inside, under a dim light, the horse stood still, his trembling lessened. Beside him, the goat stood like a statue, a steady anchor in a sea of uncertainty. He never took his eyes off his companion, his small body a promise made of flesh and bone. Our sanctuary greeted them with quiet, soft lights, not harsh. The air smelled of sweet hay and peace. Our vet Anna was there waiting. She didn't approach them like a doctor to a patient. She approached them like one survivor to another. "Hello, you two," she whispered, her voice a gentle sound, holding no threat. She didn't touch the horse first. Instead, she held her hand out for the goat to sniff. Beacon, after a moment's hesitation, stepped forward and rubbed his head against her fingers. It was permission, a signal that we had passed the first test. Only then did Anna slowly move toward the horse. She confirmed our fears. "Severe cataracts," she said softly, her own eyes full of a deep compassion. "Trauma-induced, from long-term malnutrition. His vision is almost completely gone. There would be no miracle cure for his blindness." The real miracle happened next, something far more profound. Anna took a bowl of warm water and a soft cloth. She soaked the cloth and gently brought it toward the horse's eye. His entire body tensed. He threw his head back, a reflex born of beatings and neglect. He was waiting for the pain, for a jab, for another cruelty, but the blow never came. Instead, he felt warmth, a gentleness he had long forgotten. Anna held the cloth there, not wiping, just letting the warmth soak in. She whispered again, meaningless words that held all the meaning in the world. "It's okay. You're safe now. You're safe." A shudder went through the horse's body, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was a release. He slowly lowered his head. The muscles in his neck and shoulders, always corded and tight as stone, began to soften. He let out a long, slow breath, and with it, the years of horror seemed to evaporate into the quiet night air. Anna began to wipe, gently. She cleaned away the years of caked-on filth and discharge from around his eyes. The horse didn't move. He stood perfectly still, and in a moment that made us all hold our breath, he leaned his head forward slightly, pressing into Anna's hand. It was a gesture of complete trust, a surrender to kindness. His milky eyes, though they couldn't see, seemed to soften. The wild panic was replaced by a quiet acceptance. After his eyes were clean, we led them to their new stall, a paradise compared to the hell they'd left. It was bedded with a thick, clean layer of fragrant straw. A large trough was filled with fresh water, and a hay rack was overflowing. Beacon went in first. Like a general inspecting his barracks, he did a full circuit of the stall, sniffing every corner, checking the integrity of the fences. After his inspection was complete, he looked up and let out a soft bleat. It was the all clear. The horse, who we decided to name Soul, cautiously stepped inside. He felt the softness of the straw under his hooves immediately. His head dipped, and he took a deep breath of the sweet hay. Beacon nudged his leg, guiding him to the water trough. Saul lowered his head and began to drink. He didn't drink frantically. He drank slowly, deeply, each gulp of water seeming to wash away not just a physical thirst, but a spiritual drought. It was the sound of healing, the sound of a life, finally, finding sanctuary. Weeks passed. The transformation was more than physical. Saul, our horse, gained weight. His coat now shines in the sun, no longer a ragged map of neglect. He no longer flinches at every sound. He stands in the pasture, a mountain of peace, basking in a sunlight he cannot see but can clearly feel. And Beacon, his lighthouse, is always there. The aggression is gone, replaced by a quiet devotion. He'll graze peacefully beside Saul, looking up every so often, just to make sure his friend is still there. I often stand at the fence and watch them. I went there to save a trapped horse, but in the end, I was the one who was taught a lesson. We live in a world so focused on what we can see with our eyes. We judge, we make assumptions. I looked at Beacon and saw a monster, an obstacle. I was too blind to see I was witnessing the purest form of love. I wasn't the only one who couldn't see in that dark barn. Beacon taught me what it really means to see. It's not a function of the eyes, it's a function of the heart. In total darkness, in utter despair, he became Saul's eyes. He was his compass, his guide, his reason to take the next step when all hope was gone. Theirs is a bond forged in suffering, and because of that, it is unbreakable. It is a reminder that the greatest courage often comes in the smallest bodies, and that love knows no boundaries of species. These are the stories we fight for, to find the light in the darkest of places, to prove that even after the deepest cruelty, kindness can still take root and grow. If Saul and Beacon's story has touched you, follow our journey, subscribe, and become a part of these rescues, because every soul deserves a beacon of their own.